Hi everyone, Kyle here from Wide Awake PH. In today's episode, we'll be reviewing this grinder, the Mischief Mini. The Mischief Mini, surprisingly, has not been getting so much attention on YouTube or even like online reviews for that matter. And it's really interesting because it's a really competent product. And on top of that, a lot of people are asking about this grinder on Reddit. Fortunately, we have a very loyal customer and now turned into a good friend, Jay, who's generously lent us his Mischief Mini grinder, which he bought around 2 or 3 months ago. So actually, we swapped my DF64 grinder equipped with the cast burr for this. And yeah, I'd just like to give that shout out to Jay. Thank you again for lending us the grinder. All right, in this episode, we're gonna be talking about the Mischief Mini's aesthetics, form factor, and talk about how it grinds for both filter coffee and espresso, and then talk about its pros and cons. The Mischief Mini is a really compact electrical grinder. It's actually purposefully built for home use. It's really interesting because it has a lot of magnets, The lid is magnetic, so this is how you put beans or feed beans into the grinder. You turn it. Actually, I've seen a lot of people lift like this. It's actually way harder lifting the lid rather than just simply turning it like this to release the lid. Okay. It also has this magnetic catch cup, which is really convenient. And in my testing, this holds around 35 to 45 grams of filter coffee. So it's really convenient even for families who do batch brews together. And finally, this part of the grinder is magnetic through the grind chute, making it really easy to clean and brush this section of the grinder. In terms of the grind size adjustment, it's also very simple and easy to use. All you have to do is turn the dial clockwise or counterclockwise, right? Going finer, going coarser. It makes this ratcheting sound. So obviously, it makes use of a clicking system in order to adjust the grind size coarser or finer. So right now, we are at the 0 setting, meaning this is the finest it will go, and I don't recommend grinding here because we might be at burr touch. I haven't turned it on so at this finest setting because, again, I might damage the grinder. It's not mine. We can easily remove the top component by simply rotating it all the way out. Now we have access to the burr chamber there. So the Mischief Mini makes use of Mischief's in-house made burr set, which is a 40mm burr set with a 7 cutting head design. This is the same burr set they use for their M40 hand grinder, and it's actually a pretty close copy of the Comandante C40 burr design. So that's something to keep in mind in terms of like the performance for when we talk about how it tastes or how it makes coffee for both filter and espresso. Very simple grinder, right? Like you can see, this is the outer burr chamber for the Mischief Mini. And how it works is, if you want to assemble it back, all you have to do is place it on top of the 3 springs that holds the tension for the grind size adjustment. And then all you have to do is turn it, right? Making this grinder very simple to understand, easy to use, simple to clean. You just kind of wish sometimes that they didn't use this really loud clicking system, right? I mean, it's nice and tactile, but it's loud. So maybe in a future version, it could be a little bit more quiet, or it could be stepless. Just something for Mischief to keep in mind if they want to improve for the next generation. And also, no matter what I do, I always zero at 0, which is a nice touch because you can't say the same for all the other hand grinders or even electric grinders out there in the market. So that's a nice touch. Another super good or interesting bonus feature of this grinder is it accepts 100 to 240 volts. Technically speaking, if you were coffee crazy enough, you can bring this while traveling and have an electric grinder with you instead of bringing a hand grinder, because it's actually also very, very portable, very, very lightweight, maybe around 2 kilo. And then, for example, you're traveling with family and you're like the home barista, this is good. The Mischief Mini also has these nice rubber pad, this rubber pad base at the bottom, making it anti-slip and secure when it's on the bar table, which I appreciate. Generally, I think it's a really well thought out product, very well designed. Obviously, it takes a lot of inspiration from Option O's Lago Mini, but it is not an outright clone, because if you notice, the form factor of this thing is slightly different than the Lago Mini, but obviously it's very much inspired by it. Then again, we can talk about some of the drawbacks with the Mischief Mini's design, starting with this white grinder. It comes in 3 colors, by the way, right? So silver, black, and this kind of matte white finish. The matte white finish has an interesting kind of slightly textured surface design. The issue is it really attracts dirt and smudges a lot. When you're grinding coffee, the thing just turns like brown and muddy. So you kind of lose that aesthetic unless you're super clean freak and you like cleaning this thing. Also, the power brick that this thing comes with is huge. It's as big as a laptop charger. Another thing to keep in mind if that doesn't fit your setup at home or your brew bar. For the next section, let's talk about the Mischief Mini's filter grinder performance. I think people will have 2 concerns with this grinder. One is, can it grind super lightly roasted coffee, given that it has a small motor? Yes, it's a brushless DC motor, but it's still small, right? So you might be concerned with issues such as stalling. It will break over time, or just like it will just die when you're grinding super lightly roasted coffee. And 2, of course, flavor and taste, right? Does it perform well? How does it perform relative to other hand grinders on the market? Let's see. So what I have with me is our Kenya Nyeri, my favorite coffee that's happily, sadly, not sure, sold out. I'm sad because I really love it. So what I did was I roasted 1 kilo, kept it for myself, and froze it. But don't worry, we have more Kenyan coffee on the way. What we will do is grind some and brew some, and then let's go over the flavor experience of using this grinder and approximately what grind size should we be with this grinder when brewing our way. All right, so I'll dose 13 grams. So what I do with a 13-gram dose is, all right, we're at 0, okay? What I do is 1 full rotation. So from 0 to 0, 1 full rotation, and then I'm at around 5. So 1.5 to 1.5 to the middle of 6. 1.5 to 1.55. I'm gonna hot start it. So this was without any RDT, and you can see it's relatively clean for a coffee that wasn't RDT'd. All right, so let's brew some filter coffee. We'll brew some filter coffee now. We'll use the April dripper. I've been playing around, by the way, with Coffee District's Kalita Wave filter papers. So far, I've been liking them. They are a little bit faster, more consistent than your Kalita Wave filter paper, with less of that peppery smell that Kalita Waves often give off. So it's good, it's fast, it's even, it's consistent, and it pairs well with the April dripper. The April dripper is known to be a rather slow flow rate dripper. So I think a faster filter paper does help keep things more juicy and more flavor transparent. This also is kind of similar performing to their proprietary April filters. A little bit thinner, a little bit more consistent with the flow rate, a little faster. So far, I've been enjoying it. I've used it maybe 10 times now. So, not a thorough review by any means, just an observation. We're using 96 degrees Celsius with our temperature because this is a very lightly roasted coffee and I want to bring out a lot of flavor intensity. And then we will do a 3-pour recipe instead of a 2-pour recipe, again, to have more of that intensity. So we'll just split that 200 ml pour into 3 pours, 3 even circle center pours. What I notice also with the flow rate of the Mischief Mini relative to grinders such as the ZP6 is that it is slightly slower, right? So with the same level of flavor intensity I get, the flow rate of this versus the ZP6 would be around maybe 15 to 30 seconds slower. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just how this burr set was designed, right? Because you know, you have to keep in mind this is a dual purpose sort of grinder. It can grind for both filter and espresso. Whereas the ZP6 is really focused on that filter coffee experience. So that's why the flow rates differ so much. This thing would not be as versatile as it is if it had the same flavor profile and flow rate of the ZP6. So because I'm using the April brewer, because this generates quite a bit more fines than the ZP6, we expect a slower drawdown, which is fine, right? Like, I'm not afraid of 3.5 minute brew times, especially with a very lightly roasted coffee. Sometimes you want that extended contact time, especially if you're not losing clarity anyway. It's completely fine. It's done, so let's go ahead and taste. Yeah, okay. Definitely, it's a very good grinder for filter coffee. I would say definitely tastes a little bit more blended relative to the ZP6. Also slightly more blended than the Comandante C40. But I wouldn't say you're losing out a lot on clarity, because what you get in exchange for that blendedness or that slight drop off in flavor clarity is a nice juicy body. So for example, Kenyan Yari is supposed to have hibiscus, cranberry. On something like a ZP6, you really get that very clean and clear, crisp kind of flavor experience, but also a very thin body. This has a more tactile, syrupy, juicy mouthfeel. And you know, if you think about it, like if you think of tasting a cranberry and it's like nice, vibrant, tart, like a ripe one. This turns that raspberry note into more of like a raspberry jam kind of vibe, right? So it's not as clean, not as crisp in that kind of flavor presentation as the ZP6, but definitely still very enjoyable, right? Like, if you have this on bar, you have no excuse in terms of saying, like, oh, my grinder's bad, I'm not getting good coffee. It's more of, okay, I know that that's the characteristic of this grinder. How do I pair it with the right water or the right brewer or the right filter paper with the right coffee for what I want to taste and what I want to achieve? Definitely, this is a great filter grinder. Great home grinder. Perfect if this is your first one. Like, I'd be so jealous of you. Like, had I started my coffee journey with this thing, I would have burned a lot less calories. Also, as you've heard earlier, it's also relatively quiet, right? I don't see this thing waking people up. If you're gonna grind, it's not that loud. And I appreciate that. It also is has a pretty clean workflow earlier on with the filter. So definitely very happy with the grinder's filter coffee performance. Maybe, you know, it's around in line with the C40 or the Espresso JX, something like that. Maybe slightly less clarity again compared to the C40. But, you know, electric grinder, hand grinder, you'll have to choose. And I think also the reason why it tastes so clean and crisp is because of relative to other electric grinders at this price point, is because of that very low RPM. It really mimics the motion or the RPM speed of your classic hand grinder. So it's really good. I'm impressed, especially for the price. On Lazada, this thing is selling for 8,500 pesos. You have to consider the performance of this relative to that price, and it can do espresso, which we'll talk about now. I have now with me 17 grams of our staple espresso Daybreak. This coffee is chocolatey with a really nice citrus kind of acidity. And of course, I'm super familiar with this thing. I roast it all the time. It's our bestseller, as well as our staple wholesale coffee. Let's go back to 0, right? So if you remember, we were at 1 full rotation from 0 and then 0.5. Now we're at 0, and my espresso setting is from 2.5 to 3 for an E61 powered machine with a 58mm portafilter and an 18-gram basket. Not your modern style flat basket, no, just your old school one, comes stock, or you can get it, inexpensive ones from C District. So you'll notice that it's quite slow. For Mischief Mini grinding for filter coffee, it's same as your filter grinder, right? 30 to 45 seconds, depending on your dose. With this 17-gram dose, we're looking at around a minute to at most 80 seconds for the grind time. So it's slow, but it's tasty. I'll kind of spoil it for you because this is gonna take a while. I prefer the performance of this thing compared to my Niche Zero. So the Niche Zero, for reference, has a very textured profile, meaning it goes all out on body texture, but it has a very low acidity or flavor transparency. So it's really good for your classic flavor profile kind of shots, but not so good with Wide Awake's style when it comes to coffee, because we like our coffees to be crisp, flavor transparent, clear, with a really nice and elegant flavor balance. So with this, body goes down a bit, clarity goes up a bit. So I wouldn't say it's your juice bomb kind of flavor profile, but it's more balanced, right? You give up a little bit of that body, a little bit of that texture for more flavor clarity, more vibrancy, which works really well with our coffees. We'll give it a try. So what I'm gonna do is, because this thing won't really fit directly inside this portafilter, right? I'm gonna dose it into the niche cup like this, and then transfer it to the portafilter. Just makes it a more elegant sort of workflow. Then we're gonna pull a shot, and then we're gonna taste it together. So my espresso machine has pressure profiling capabilities. So even if we're a bit off, we should be fine. All right, so we got 1 gram out in around 12 seconds. Now I'm gonna push the pressure up to 8 bar, then do a lever profile kind of style. So 17 grams in, I want 2.5 ratio, that's it. So this was 17 grams in and 49 ml out. So almost 1:3 kind of ratio. Let's taste. When you're enjoying your espressos, I don't recommend drinking it, straight, because it's too hot to enjoy. What you want to do is really cool it down a bit. Transfer it to another cup, stir, and just cool it down to tame that acidity. Wow, that's nice. Definitely way lower body compared to the niche, but good enough body that you can definitely use this with a different technique, with a different ratio for your milk beverage or milk-based drinks. But right now, as it is for straight espresso, I'm getting everything we have in this bag, right? Sweet, full-bodied, chocolate fudge, almonds, definitely, and a hint of citrus, definitely. So, that's what I'm saying. It's such a good grinder. It has very few drawbacks. that I can't help but recommend it to you, provided that you don't mind. It's, you know, taking a lot of design inspiration from Option O, and the company itself is known to copy a lot of famous coffee grinder products or products in general. Before we conclude, let's just discuss the cons. And I think there's this one big con that we should be aware of, and it's that you cannot grind with this thing continuously. Meaning, you'll have to wait maybe 2 or 3 minutes before grinding. You can't be home barista mode, serving a large crowd, and, you know, pull shots back to back to back to back like that. Or else you're going to most likely heat it up, because there's no chamber here for it to cool. Unlike, you know, a commercially ready espresso / commercial grinder like this. So that's this thing's biggest downside. But again, you know, for the price, for the target market for which this is for, I really don't think that's such a big drawback unless it's not suited for you and your lifestyle. Now we can conclude, this is a fantastic grinder. It's a great entry-level grinder. It's a great secondary grinder. It's a great travel grinder. So how I imagine someone to use this would be, let's say I'm a home brewer, a new one. I invest the almost 9,000 pesos buying this thing. I will not need to upgrade my grinder for a very long period of time. I will only upgrade once I am certain I want an expensive one. And that's so powerful, right? Because it allows you to really explore your flavor preference, explore the gear you want in terms of, you know, the brewer or espresso, because it can do both. And then once you know your preference, once you know what you like, boom, then that's when you splurge, even if you need it. Because you know, it's making really, really tasty coffee. What's holding you back from making good coffee is skill. And I think that's great. You can really grow with this grinder. And then, you know, once the time comes, like let's say you're coffee crazy like me and a lot of my friends, you can upgrade and it becomes a secondary grinder, right? So let's say you want to be an espresso focused home, but a little bit of filter. This can be your filter grinder. Buy something dedicated for espresso. It's perfect. Or, you know, you bought this big boy grinder like this, like a Bentwood, then this can be your travel grinder. Because no way you can bring this around, right? This thing you can. It's super, super lightweight, super portable. So yeah, that's our review of the Mischief Mini grinder. I hope you like it. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. And you know, honestly, I love this thing so much. Wide Awake might just as well retail it because we see very little drawbacks, and I think it will really serve the market and, you know, kind of let the market buy it, forget about, you know, choosing which grinder they should go for if they're new to this game, and just focus on the coffee, because that's what really this thing's about. Please like and subscribe if you found this video useful. That will help us out a lot. Thank you so much for watching.